Fragments of Silicon, where we believe that jobs should be done by people who know how to do them.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining as always are the Golics and Petty Fan. Right, let us get to the news. Golics, why don't you start us off this week? Golics, did you mute yourself again?
Yes, I did, because I was doing something else. Sorry, I've been having a bit of a rough week. I have a lot of stuff building up on me that I have to take care of over the next while, which I had a therapist meeting where we talked about it, so I'm kind of working on that now, but haven't had too much time to really get going on it since that was just earlier today. Also, I've had a mild tinnitus on and off in my right ear for like many days now, and it's annoying.
That doesn't sound good.
It's about on the level that you used to get from like screens being on and stuff, but like it's not because of screens, because I've turned screens off and it hasn't done anything. And part of what I'm working on is that for the plans for my grandfather's thing in May, I'm accelerating, looking into getting a new laptop that'll work. Because my old one is kind of slow and not very good. And also I need to figure out at some point how to get my desktop set up to be able to do Windows 11 or whatever, I guess. Annoyingly. I don't really want to, but...
At this point, it's not what you want. Looks over at Microsoft.
Mostly it's because learning Linux seems like it would be too big of a pain in the ass.
Also, with the workarounds we have to do for the show, you wouldn't be able to run the show with Linux. Also, a lot of games we get don't work on Linux either.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not thrilled about that. This past weekend, since our regular Pathfinder Games hosts basement where we play flooded, and my parents were away, we played at my house, which worked pretty well. We'll see if we can do that again. We probably won't be able to do that any of the other weeks because my parents will be here, but we'll see. The main thing is that the other guy who offered, who is the one who's currently running the story while most of the stuff that we have at the normal host's house is in waterproof containers. Not because there's real significant risk of more leakage, but because they have a lot of cleanup to do down there.
Also, the risk of mold.
Thankfully, I don't think any of them actually really got wet. It was only a couple of inches of water, and most stuff was like on tables.
Fair enough. It's still
I helped them bring a couch that was down there to the dump, but
yeah, it's still one of those things. There's still always the risk of, because heavy water ingress, mold from in the walls could be expelled onto various things, and
yeah, they need to get a lot of work done down there,
right?
And most of the stuff that was down there is just away, so it takes up less space. Anyway, the other person who offered to host has a relatively small apartment and we have a decent number of people, and we usually use a battle map, so we'll see how that goes if we have to do it over there.
Fun.
Other than that, not a whole lot going on. Haven't actually done that much video game wise. I've been playing a little bit more Dead Cells. And been doing the raids in Scarlet and Violet for the Scarlet and Violet starters and the mightiest things. And was it this past? I think it might have been this past weekend. There was a big run in Splatoon that I played a bit of. So, but yeah, I'm tired. I'm gonna blame some of it on daylight savings, even though I know that's not all of it. So that's all for me.
So I guess it's my go.
Yes.
Unless there's someone invisible in the room.
As far as
unless Twilight rejoined, it's your go.
As far as like life stuff going on, the real only big thing was I mentioned we were having some electricity problems last week. We had the electric company came and they basically spliced a new mains line to our house because it was that messed up from the wind. So that was a fun 30 minutes without electricity. We still are having some light flickering issues, which I'm thinking probably, hopefully, isn't something wrong with a breaker box and is just something wrong with a transformer in the area.
That could be a wiring problem.
Our house is a wiring problem. So yeah, 100-year-old houses tend to not have very good electrical wiring, so. And it's one of those things we can't afford an electrician to come rewire this hellhole, so that's gonna be fun. And yeah, other than that, I guess the only real big undertaking I've had this week is I've been working on getting the water off the pool cover because we're gonna look into opening the pool in May. So I found one of those gas siphon pumps on Amazon for $10 and been just having that get as much water as we can off. Because since I have till May, yeah, it's not that fast, but I also have 2 months to, deal with it. And we already have a few inches of water off there. So worst case, if it's still draining stuff in the next month, I may plop down the $30 for a electric motor, one of those pump things. But I mean, if the $10 one I got off Amazon works, then fine with me. As far as production news goes, I have another batch of MSP videos I need to send over to the YouTube. We have started back up on Digimon World 3. And I subsequently got lost again because I am not that great. Fun. Well, the joys of doing live broadcasts. And as far as gaming goes for me, I've been playing Sonic Unleashed Recompiled because I got that sorted out. It was just they needed to update something on the devs end, and now it works flawlessly for me. And I've also been messing with what's it called? Pacific Drive, the what's it called? Procedurally generated driving game, I believe, is what they're billing it as.
I'm pretty sure there's more than one of those.
It's the one where you're the one in the Pacific Northwest where there's an exclusion zone that popped up, and you're like life linked to a car for whatever reason. It's interesting. I'll give them that. I don't know how far I'm going to get into it, but it's like conceptually interesting at least. I think that's it from me.
All right. I guess it's my go. Let's see. It was a bit of an MSP programming note. Mac hopes to join us this week. I guess he's still not ironed out all his issues with Uber. Though I suppose if he does join us this week, he'll tell us all about it. In agonizing detail. But putting that aside, let's see. Oh, this week, the couch came in the other day, and as somewhat expected, it turned out to be not what I needed.
Shock and awe.
Yeah. Still, I learned a few things that may come in handy in the future.
About buying furniture on Amazon, or
necessarily. It's not related to buying a couch. Anyway, thankfully, Amazon has generous return policies. As you know, the box got sent back today, so within a few weeks that should all be cleared up. Hopefully, unless something happens in the mail, which I can't discount.
Right.
But all the pieces are in there, and stuff of that nature. Let's see. That being said, the couch is going on the back burner in favor of I've got to look into getting a new laptop because
it's time.
In between the impending obsolescence of Windows 10 and, more to the point, the tariffs.
Right.
It's like this is something I was planning on doing. I was going to do in the summer, but since we are currently in the thrall of a mad king who doesn't see wake up a new day and there's a tariffs on this, maybe it's this amount, it's a lot of uncertainty. And people have been saying you should get electronics as soon as possible,
right?
So that's got to take the priority here, though even that is going to have to wait because, well, first of all, I think I mentioned this before, but spring break is approaching. So
yes, the time of the children.
Yes. So that means I'm doing a lot of children watching the next week and some change because my brother works I hesitate to use the word day job, because he does the same kind of thing that Mac does. But he just works the eats portion of Uber. He's got issues with the idea of doing the full-on taxi service.
I mean, understandable.
But point of order is someone's got to watch the kids while that's going on, and there's really no other option.
Right.
It's just going to be a very draining week. So
have fun with that.
I'm like, well, try to. Like, it means a lot of Minecraft. Naka's Minecraft playthrough has actually been coming in handy to a point.
Yeah, only it's like a relatively old version of Minecraft, but I get you.
Well, it keeps the younger ones amused. The older one kind of has caught on to how old it is
Mm.
because he's asked how old is it?
Before you were even thought of. I wish I was joking.
That's actually not true. This is as old as he is.
Ah,
Like, I mean, thereabouts when the episode went live and all that stuff, but
yeah.
from the same year.
I literally had to have that discussion with my niece. Like, yeah, I've had Minecraft since before your parents met, and I think I blew her mind.
Right. Like, I'm not sure if they're cognizant of how old Minecraft, at least, the younger ones.
Right,
The oldest is 12 years old, so he's gonna have a bit more of an understanding of the concept of time.
right.
So, anyway, as enlightening this conversation is, it's probably time to move on to the interview portion of the broadcast.
Yep.
And joining us this week are Tisa and John of Ponderosa Games.
Hello.
Hi there.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. No problem. We are glad that you could be with us here today. Right. So, how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, behind the studio, and all that business. And we do that by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, Tisa, did you want to take it first, or you want me to?
Sure. Yeah, I can. I guess as a kid who grew up in the 80s, I I really enjoyed just the original Nintendo and Sega, and then I kind of went through a big gap where I didn't so much play games for a while. And when I met John and started kind of like getting into software development and going back to school for my computer science degree, John was more of a game player than I was at the time, and he kind of, since I did have that sort of gap in game playing, like there was a ton of like great classics for me to catch up on, so it wasn't hard for him to get me hooked on like Portal and BioShock and just some of the things I had kind of missed out on. And also going to school, I found that like making simple console games and such was like a great way to practice coding kind of outside of class. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I realized that my laptop was kind of woefully inadequate for my schoolwork. So I ended up like building my own PC, and in the process of like researching the graphics cards and just figuring out the capabilities of this new machine, I realized, oh, I can do, play games that I never really had the capability for. So then we, started doing more, graphics intensive games that, were really beautiful. And I loved just being able to unwind at the end of a day by playing an adventure game or a puzzle game or whatever. So
Yeah,
So
that
is
was
that
her
what you?
first hand-built gaming rig.
yeah.
And is your story similar?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I think the first games I played were on an original Nintendo Entertainment System, and then in like the late '90s, early 2000s, I was kind of a computer nerd in school, so my friends and I were getting into Doom and Quake, and then later Half-Life. And I don't know, yeah, writing any sort of game was always kind of a dream of ours. We tried to write one back in high school and got barely into it before college started, and everybody kind of went their own separate ways. But um, the enjoyment of creating things never really went away. Um, I think one of my original favorites was Myst and Riven and those kind of puzzle adventure games. And that's an idea that's still stuck in the back of my head, even though I haven't gotten to write it yet.
Okay. So, how does that road lead to Ponderosa Games here?
Yeah, I realized I
Well,
kind of
no, go
I kind
ahead.
of just answered the personally part of the question and not the professionally. So I after I got my degree, I was started working as a software developer in the corporate world, and that was great for a while because I really enjoy coding. But after a while, I started getting kind of burned out. I wanted more of like a creative element in my work, and yeah, talking with John, he was also kind of burned out and ready to try something new. And I kind of just, we just kind of like took a leap and I quit my day job and my intent at first was for it to just be like a short term sabbatical. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, just kind of like recover from the burnout a little bit and maybe just like take a year off and then go back to it. But um, I started just kind of like playing around with reading books about game development and kind of putzing around on Unity and so forth. And um, soon it just became like I realized that I really, really enjoyed game creation, and it's just kind of like this confluence of my passions of like art and doodling and stories and gaming and coding and everything. I love it and hope I can continue to continue to do that.
Yeah, and my side of that story is very similar, slightly different. I had been working doing software development in the industry for like about 15 years, and um, I had some chronic health issues that were kind of getting slowly worse over time, and ended up getting forced out of my job, which was super traumatic for me. Um, so I was kind of, you know, coming at it from a standpoint of, well, let's see if I can make some money on the, like maybe barely enough to live off from or something like that. It was kind of more of a survival mode thing. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how I got involved with Ponderosa.
Okay. And how long ago was Ponderosa formed?
It was last
Mm,
summer, I think, right? Yeah, like June of
Officially,
2024 officially. Yeah.
yeah, I think unofficially we're at just about we're a little over 2 years now, or maybe right at, but like yeah, officially, filing the LLC and stuff. Probably last summer sometime.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that you've chosen a path that we don't often get to talk about on this program. And that's for those who aren't currently looking at the screen. You've chosen the mobile market
Hmm.
and the ultra casual portion of the mobile market at that. Like,
Yeah.
and wondering, was there a particular reason why you decided down that path?
I don't know if we actually did have a reason other than we knew it was a way to monetize, because there's kind of built-in ways in the software ecosystem for Android and iOS.
Mm-hmm.
And Tisa, did you remember anything about that?
Uh, I think for me, it just sounded like a little bit less intimidating than going for a full on. I guess my association with like building like a PC or console game and putting it out on Steam would be like a
Like
graphics
more work?
intensive kind of game. Yeah, and I thought that like making a mobile game just sounded like a little bit more reasonable of a scope for our first game. And then yeah, looking into Unity, it just looked like they had a really easy way to like port to both iOS and Android. And we were already leaning a little bit toward Unity because both of us had worked with C# in our corporate jobs, and it was just kind of, I don't know, it just felt like a lot of
Kind of
things
fell
were
into it.
aligning. Yeah. But I would love to
Okay.
make a Steam game someday. That is definitely, I think, on both
Oh
of
yeah.
our
Yeah, we're
lists.
we're definitely not against doing full-fledged computer games.
Yeah.
Duly note. Okay, that's a bit more of a trodden road, something like that. We've had devs on the program before who, have made their first project mobile things before, moving on to Steam or consoles. Like,
Hmm.
that's mainly due to how competitive the mobile scene is.
Right.
We
It is
learned
very
that kind of late. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that's gonna hit you, no matter what the field, if I'm being honest, because the mobile scene is the most competitive, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that Steam or the Nintendo eShop or you name any digital storefront isn't just teeming with games these days, and
Yeah.
getting noticed is always a challenge. So why not go for the mobile arena at this stage, especially since
Yeah.
you guys did go the free-to-play route.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're kind of betting on more of a long-term, outlook where, each game doesn't necessarily have to like be the big one, but maybe if we can do, I don't know, a game a year or something for 10 years, then we'll have kind of a collection that provides income. That's kind of how I've been imagining it.
Something
Yeah.
that could work out. I'll be honest, this is an area that once again we don't tend to focus on, so we can't really speak to all that keenly. But how I suppose we should get into like the game you've created in the here and now, and that's catagrams. I suppose for the uninitiated, what is catagrams?
Catagrams is a cat-themed word game for mobile. It's cozy, it's chill, it's got hand-drawn illustrations. It's just kind of this handcrafted game where you can choose your own difficulty, and we're donating some of the proceeds to a rotating cat rescue.
Uh, I assume local.
Currently, it's local. Yeah. We're the first cat rescue we picked is here in our hometown, Manitou Springs. But yeah, we might change it up in the future. But it'll probably, I don't know. We'll probably stick with like Colorado cat rescues. I don't know. It's nice to
Well,
give
I,
to
I was thinking
local
international. I
organizations.
don't know.
Oh well, maybe I don't know. I guess we haven't really figured out our long term plan for the cat rescues. But yeah,
I guess,
starting
yeah,
local.
I guess
I,
probably US would help us because the currency is the same.
Yeah.
I suppose you don't have to figure that out right now.
Yeah, I
Never
suppose
Yeah.
say
not.
like, but anyway, so I suppose I should ask how cat themed this word game is. As in, are the actual, words related to cats? Like, are you figuring out, do you have to make words out of breeds of cats or cat toys or, that kind of thing?
No, the word game component is pretty generic as far as the words go. So like it's kind of a legit word game, but with a cat theme. So the game kind of is set in a the scene of like a home, and there's like pictures on the walls, and you sort of fill in these portraits with all the missing pieces as you go along. So there's like these different scenes of like the cat at the beach and the cat who's on a camping trip and the cat who's in Italy and so forth. And as you solve these word puzzles, you kind of earn accessories for these cats and complete the game. But the words are, once you get into the levels and start actually working on the word puzzles, it's just kind of like a normal word puzzle game for
Yeah,
good for word nerds regardless of whether you like cats or not.
the puzzles themselves are actually randomly generated, so you never know what you're going to get.
Hmm.
Okay. I suppose that actually makes sense because Honestly, if you had to go full on with the cat theming, that would be one, very limiting, two, difficult after a certain point.
Yeah, it would be a lot of legwork to come up with those puzzles. After a while, you just feel like
Yeah.
you're running out of ideas.
Especially since this is a mobile game. And I'm assuming this is operating like a mobile game does. That is to say, it gets regular content.
Well, we have I think what is it, five built-in levels, and then we're going to have purchasable levels that come out whenever we have them done. We have one out already, and we're working on a second one.
Levels in the sense of like scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Right.
cat scenes. Yeah, not like individual word puzzles, but the overarching scenes that you're trying to fill in.
Yeah. Well, once again, that is very mobile game design, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
you generate packs of levels or what have you at regular intervals for the sake of monetization.
Yeah.
And do you have how do I put this, a goal in mind in terms of how long you're going to support Catagram?
Not
Well,
specifically. Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, yeah. We had talked about, the there's certain levels that are kind of the base game, and then there's the in-app purchase levels that you can buy. I'd love to have maybe 3 to 5 purchasable levels over time. And at some point, I think I want to kind of cut it off, and any new levels would be in a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. And what would you do for a sequel? Like more catagrams, or another animal themed word puzzle kind of deal, like dogograms?
Right, that is the question. And we had talked about maybe doing like, yeah, different animals for the second one. Like maybe, there's like a completely different room, and then there's capybaras and giraffes and dogs and who knows what. Um, but as far as the gameplay goes, that the question is like, can we kind of put out the same style of gameplay? Are users going to be happy with that, or would they expect the same gameplay to be presented to them more in like a DLC sort of format, in the sense of like it should be released to the original game instead of being a sequel? And that I haven't quite figured out yet, because it seems like a sequel should have like kind of a new fun twist on the gameplay.
Yeah, I feel like if we have, you know, if we expand the animal theme to new animals, then um, that seems like a clean break if we do want to do a second game as a different app in the store.
Yeah, maybe that's different enough.
At the very least, you could try one of those to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would
Well,
be worth doing. It's not on our immediate horizon, but
Right.
yeah, I think that'd be worth doing.
Yeah. And okay, if you decide to go, a different kind of puzzle game route or something like that, do you have something in mind there?
yeah, Tisa's sort of been prototyping, kind of like a mini game almost that we were thinking for our next game immediately.
Yeah, I think after 2 years working on catagrams, because we had so much to learn in terms of game dev, uh, what we were hoping to do next is just something like really straightforward and simple, something that we can release within, like this year. So this particular idea kind of ticks those boxes.
Hmm. And recentering to catagrams itself, how difficult are the word puzzles? As in, like how many? Like, are you making 3-letter words, 5-letter words, 7-letter words, that kind of deal?
So it's really customizable. You can choose your own difficulty for every level you play. So if you're just wanting something easy, you can go as low as is it 3 letters or 4 letters? I
I
think
think 4,
I think 4 is the minimum,
or maybe
and then
it's
it
no.
I don't know,
Go ahead.
and then it goes
I
up to
haven't
8.
played that easy in a while.
Yeah, you can go up to 8 letters, and the 8 letter, like that's pretty legitimately hard. Like I feel like increasing the length of the words kind of exponentially increases the difficulty of the levels. And then additionally, we have different word lists that you can choose from. So there's sort of the normal word list and then the more difficult words word list that has like more obscure words on it.
Hmm. Makes sense. And how
Yeah.
does the hint system work?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
How does the hint system work?
So the levels you end up you have these word tiles and they have to fit together in a certain way where each tile has a colored thread on it, has to connect with other threads of like colors. And the words end up intersecting, so it kind of looks like a little bit like a crossword puzzle. The hint system, we show these kind of representational tiles that aren't hooked together, so we're not giving away the shape of the puzzle. And all the letters are hidden and the threads. And so you can click on individual ones well, I guess not the threads. You can see like the thread colors. So you could be like, all right, well, the green threaded word I'm having a lot of trouble with. So you can go click on those tiles and it'll reveal letters for whatever tiles you click on. So it's kind of another one where you can pick how much help you want. If you really want to get a lot of help, you could click on every single one. Or if you're like, no, I just need a little help and I want to figure it out, you can click on maybe the first letter or the middle letter or something like that.
Yeah. And additionally, the intersection threads are hidden along with the letters. So the intersection tiles are sometimes a useful hint in like figuring out like how the words fit together into that crossword shape. So that is something that's revealed as well when you click on a tile that happens to be where the threads cross.
Okay. I suppose my ultimate question here is, like, is there a limit to the hint system? Is there a penalty? Is there
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, in game there's
is it
there's no
connected?
penalty in the game, but
Okay.
but you do have to watch an ad unless you've purchased the no ads, perk for the in-app purchases.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because oftentimes I've played other anagram games. I'm trying to remember what it was, but they do that there as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty common pattern, I think, for mobile games.
Yes. And how long has Catagrams been out on Android and iOS?
We launched on
Since
February
go ahead.
6th. Yeah.
Yep, February 6th.
It's a little over a month.
And how has it been faring so far in the marketplace?
I think pretty good considering that we haven't done any like paid advertising. We kind of wanted to see how it would do um, organically first. And we've had today actually, we just hit over 5,000 downloads between both platforms. A lot of those are iOS. Android is just now
Yeah.
starting to catch up.
Yeah,
Android was really
we
slow
were
at first for some reason.
we were really surprised. Yeah, we splurged and hired a PR firm to kind of help because we don't know anything about how to promote a game, and when we noticed that iOS was doing better than Android, we ran that by them, and they said, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of competition on Android because it's easier to publish with them."
Right. It's also much more decentralized. I know that's changing on iOS, but still far less in the way of storefronts and stuff than what you get on Android.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also phone usage popularity depends on region. Like iPhones are much more popular, say, in North America than in, say, China. That kind of, there's all sorts of factors here. Like,
Yeah.
but
We were surprised that we got so many international users because we were thinking it would mainly just be in English speaking countries. But we've had a size, not a lot, but a sizable amount that were in non-English speaking countries. We were kind of impressed.
I mean, unless they chime in, I suppose that could be like expats or
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it was. It was, English speakers in a country that's not primarily that.
yeah,
Or people wanting to learn or practice their English.
right,
Yeah.
ESL. There's all sorts of reasons why they would be doing that. But that does beg the question: have you gotten any feedback from your user base on catagrams yet?
Oh, we've probably gotten like a handful of emails. Some of them from people who are, like stuck on a particular puzzle, um, usually because they're new to it and they don't know about the hint system, or they just have a couple of letters swapped, and sometimes you've just been staring at it too long and you just can't see it anymore, even though it's right in front of your face. Um, I think that's been just about it. We've had
Yeah.
reviews in the stores that are mostly good, and we're very relieved about that. We were, before releasing, really stressed about like, oh crap, are we going to have all these trolls leaving 1-star reviews? And you just don't know what to expect if you've never done it before.
Fair enough fear. And right, something that came up in the pre-show that we wanted to ask is, what is your stance on proper names and brands and stuff like that? Are they valid in catagrams?
No, we removed proper nouns from our word lists.
So
Is that what
basically,
you mean,
like
like in the
Scrabble
puzzles?
rules.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
the whole curating of these word lists, it was kind of epic actually. Like we made a 2-part blog post just on how it went making the word lists, because it was a lot more work than we expected. We started with the SoPods word list, which is kind of the official Scrabble list, and it is enormous. I want to say it has like 200,000 or 300,000 words. It is
Something like that,
huge.
yeah.
And yeah, a lot of the words are just stuff you've never heard of. And so
A lot of
we,
those come from medical dictionaries, yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So we didn't want our word list to be quite that big and all encompassing, but it was hard to find smaller word lists that were, you know, big enough, really, because even with like 10,000 words, after you start playing a while, they start looking familiar. So we wanted it to be big enough that, that people would feel like there was a lot of variety in the games.
And also
Uh,
probably not being so crazy, people need to learn how to spell anti-disestablishmentarianism or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
You want me to tell them about what we ended up with?
oh, sure, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of SoPods, we like after searching the internet like multiple times, different days, I finally stumbled on this one word list called Scowl. It's some acronym. I can't remember what it stands for. If anybody wants to see it, go to wordlist.aspell.net. And it's kind of a collection that's built up for I think maybe over a decade even, um, where it was mostly targeted at spell checkers. And I'm like, well, that's probably going to overlap a ton with what we need. And so we kind of used their list. There's actually multiple lists in there of different types and different. They kind of had it divided up by how obscure the words were in usage, which was actually really helpful. And we ended up just kind of curating that and paring it down to remove, offensive words or things that just were too obscure or too weird.
Yeah, once we start getting into the medical dictionary, you might want to start backing off a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, or start listing the ingredients, from processed foods or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Monosodium glutamate.
Yeah. No maltodextrin in our game.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the other like catagram specific problem that we had is that we have to be careful about anagrams because it is kind of like an anagram solving game. So we actually don't have spine in our word list because someone might think it's another word.
It starts with a P and ends with an S. Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
Makes sense. Makes all of the sense in the world.
We were literally kind of discussing this in one of our reviews this week, where it was a game, like basically creative writing prompt like game, and we were kind of discussing the time to expletive, time to slur or whatever, and that's like, yeah, a lot of games don't want that, so I can kind of see paring down your word list to remove that option.
Yeah. It's like a real big deal if somebody's younger kid is playing and something real offensive comes up. So we had to be
it's all fun and games till little Billy
careful.
learns insert slur here.
Yeah, starts saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And even, like after removing profanities and slurs and so forth, there's other words that we just didn't want to be in the puzzles because we just want it to be kind of like a relaxing, feel good kind of game.
Oh yeah.
So
Nothing too political.
Yeah, nothing too political, nothing, taking out some that had to do with like warfare, illness, death, whatever. Like it was kind of that's where it got really difficult to curate because you don't want to like go overboard, but you just kind of want it to be a fun game for people to play.
And probably stuff that could be like negatively affected towards animals or what have you and stuff like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for a cat themed game, yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's hard because you have to make judgment calls, but you have thousands or 10,000 words to go through, and so you can't spend too much time on each individual judgment call. I want to say we worked for like 2 or 3 months where we would just spend as much time as we can going through the lists until you're just brain fried and don't want to look at another word again, and then do something else for the rest of your day. So it's like you can only go so fast.
And like obviously if the generator pops up something and says it's correct that you don't want in there and somebody sends you an email, it can disappear in the next patch or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm really proud of like how thorough we were. We spent months on it, but what we ended up with was we've added words back to the game that we didn't realize we're missing. So people have written in and said, oh yeah, this word boing isn't in there. Oh, okay. Next update, it's in there now.
And I assume that's a continuous process, or has that been solidified now that the game's been out?
No, yeah, we're always open to suggestions if we've forgotten any words. If we decide, that word is too obscure even for us, we might tell them no. But so far, we've just had good suggestions.
Yeah.
Or like various cat breeds being an option in there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, do you ever get suggested words like embiggen or cromulent?
We have not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I think some word lists actually have those already in there, so it may be in there. It's one of those things.
We might.
Some of those have been added to the dictionaries, so.
Yes. Yes, they
Yeah.
have. They are considered to be actual words these days.
Mm.
And we actually have two different lists. We have one for the solver, which is wider. It'll take a whole lot of words, and then one for the generator, which are words that we want to purposefully be able to appear in the puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I suppose my final question is, what does your monetization pricing look like? As in, how much does it cost to unlock the game? How much are level packs going, and all of that business?
Yeah, our cheapest in-app purchase is like the the premium cats, if you will, like the new scenes, and those are like 99 cents. So far, we just have one of those. It's the Cozy Winter Cat, and then
Another one
um,
coming soon.
another one coming soon. Yes, and then to get rid of ads, that's $1.99. And then we have one called Unlimited Play, which is where if you like finish all your cats and you want to just keep doing puzzles, that one lets you do as many puzzles as you'd like. And that's $2.99. And then finally we have the treat package, and that's $9.99, but it includes like everything in the store, everything that will release for
Basically,
this game
like
in the
what the Modern
future.
Founders pack is in a lot of games.
Yeah, I guess so. It's
Yep.
like, it unlocks
Includes the
everything.
future ones.
Yeah, and that's the one where half the proceeds go to the cat rescue. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like I said, that's fairly typical mobile pricing. Probably, you know, lighter just because there's, relatively speaking, it's a young game.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think we talked at length about what to price things at, and I bet we ended up kind of on the low end, but we're new company, new games, so I figure that's probably fine, and we'll get our footing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've run through my gamut of questions.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm satisfied too.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, guys.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks so much.
Not a problem. Not a problem. It's been lovely having you on the program. Like I said, this is an avenue we don't get to talk about a lot, but it's certainly been illuminating nonetheless. Anyway, the game is Catagrams. It's out now for both iOS and Android platforms. You can go and download it today. It is free to play, so you don't have to purchase anything at the outset. But if you want to help support kitties, you can go and buy the Founders Pack for $9.99. And yeah, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. Right, so this week we are talking about Sonic Unleashed. Mainly due to the recompile project?
Unleash Recomp, yes.
Right. So shorthand here, like Sonic Unleashed, that's the one with the werehog, or hogwolf, or wolf hog, or something
Werehog.
along those.
They call it a
Werehog?
werehog, even though that's really more an accurate description of like basic Sonic.
Right. I'm like, the point is that's the one with his monster form with the stretchy arms because someone had played God of War that day. Like, but Petty, why don't you take things over to tell us what this project is specifically?
Basically, to put it very simply, they've recompiled the game to, instead of running Xbox code, it's been recompiled in C, I believe C+, to run natively on Windows, which is very big for the Xbox community, because we have not just Sonic Unleashed getting recompile, but this opens the door for other games as well.
Other games such as what? Sonic and the Black Knight?
Anything on Xbox. As
So
long
not
as
that.
because this, you just pull the game files off of your 360 and it recompiles it to run on Windows. There is a possibility you could just get native ports of just about any 360 game with this. No dealing with emulation, modern amenities like widescreen support, unlocked frame rates. This is actually really big for the preservation community.
Now, I've heard tell that there's a bit of paranoia running through the community right now, mainly due to fears that Sega's going to have this mod or whatever you want to call it nuked.
See, the problem with that is there is no of Sega's code in the actual executable. You need to procure the files yourself. And they are not charging for this either, which is a downfall of a lot of projects.
So what, it just takes their thing and converts it? Or?
Yes, it is purely a conversion. So there's not really a whole lot Sega can do other than be salty. I think the worst thing is they have a couple of the Unleashed concept arts in the installer, which those can be removed.
Right. And I think people are maybe being a bit too jittery here because of the actions of Nintendo.
Yeah, the thing with specifically AM2R is that used actual assets from Nintendo in it. They weren't one-to-one, they weren't recreations, they were using I believe it was SNES art?
Art, or are you talking about the sprites in game?
Both.
Yeah.
I know they were using something that wouldn't be under generally agreed upon fan art stuff. It wouldn't really be allowed. And also at the same time, Sega is generally fine as long as you're not charging for it doing fan stuff. There have been Sonic fan games probably since, there has been the ability to write cartridges.
I mean, I suppose that gets into the blurry line between fan game and, work crafted out of a bootleg.
Yeah.
Like Stomari or something like that.
Right.
But
yeah, no, the thing that keeps this mostly safe is that it's not you don't get the Unleashed files with this.
Yeah, it's also Sega tends to be a lot more generous about this sort of thing than Nintendo in general.
Well, and also instead of eschewing the fan community, Sega is more than willing to hire members of the fan community. Look at Christian Whitehead.
Right.
He was a prolific star in the fan game community, and he works for Sega. He built an actual Sonic game that went to production. So yeah,
So he did.
it's very much one of those. Technically, Sega could have issue, but since there is none of Unleashed's files actually in the game, there isn't much they can. Well, okay, there's stuff they could do, but it's more of a gray area than this existing, if that makes sense, based on Sega's actual general rules they go by.
Well, from what I've seen, the extra special fear is that Sega's just going to finally announce Sonic Unleashed for for both the PC and modern platforms. Doing what they did for with Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. I mean, Unleash,
which I mean is possible.
Yeah, I have not seen anything from the devs if they are going, say Sega announces tomorrow Unleashed is coming out. I've not seen anything on what their steps will be, on any of their Discord or what have you. So I don't know what, if they are going to just be fine and take it down, if they're going to keep it up. So that I'm not sure of. I've not really, had any interaction with the devs on this one. So it's definitely one of those things we'll just have to wait and see. But as far as is this true to Sonic Unleashed as it was in 2008? God, was it 2008? Yeah,
yes.
This is about as a true recreation as we're probably going to get, unless Sega actually still has access to the source files and does a full 4K recreation. Still using the original 360 files, this is amazing. Honestly, I think this looks better than the stuff Sega did in Generations, the Generations remake. And I thought the Generations remake looked damn good.
I've actually never played Unleashed, so I can't really speak to its overall quality. I just, I know the reputation.
Yeah,
I mean, it was in that era. It was in that era where practically every Sonic game they were coming out with had some kind of problem.
Well, Sonic Unleashed is divisive to this day, with some arguing that it continued the trend of bad Sonic games, and some postulating that this was the beginning of, at the time, Sonic's redemption arc. At least for the for a little while there.
Yeah. This is the start of Boost Generation.
Yeah.
So this is what that has going for it.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone really say that the daytime / speed stages in Unleashed were bad. No. Just that there aren't enough of them compared to the other ones, which I think we were talking about this on Sunday, is at least partially an artifact of how big those stages have to be geometrically to be stored in memory.
Mm.
Right. And I think I'm trying to remember if I somewhere that they instituted the Werehogs because ultimately the game was too short otherwise.
Yeah, this is before they... If you get good, you can blast through even some of the longer day stages in a few minutes. Well, meanwhile, Werehog stages, because of how slow Sonic is during them, you can turn and burn Takes about 20 minutes.
The Werehog stages are like beat 'em ups.
Yes.
Complete with like defeat all the enemies before you progress to the next short platforming challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also worth mentioning is the 2 different Sonic Unleashed.
Yes.
Of
note, with the recomp, it only works with the 360 game files. PS3, Wii, PS2 are not compatible. You must have the 360 game files.
In fairness, I don't think there's a lot of call for porting the Wii version or the PlayStation 2 version, what have you, to any other systems.
There isn't, but at the same time, it's one of those things that it has to be kind of noted, because that might be the only way people have played these games is through those versions.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that, you know, as divisive as the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions were, the PlayStation 2 and Wii version was extra special divisive because it had more werehog per square inch. Like,
I have heard largely that it has a larger number of stages, but some of the individual stages are smaller or shorter. But
basically, they broke up sections of the 360 werehog levels to pepper them throughout this, because it just did not have enough room, does not have enough memory to hold the full werehog levels. So instead, they were broken up.
Because you have to be able to backtrack and stuff in those stages.
Right.
And another thing I want to put in context here is the art style of Sonic Unleashed. Because it's not brought up much, probably because the werehog dominates the conversation, and it's about the edgiest Sonic himself has ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Might depend on how you view Sonic Forces, but certainly one of the edgiest Sonic titles out there. That
although hilariously, after the opening story bit, it doesn't seem to affect his personality very much.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
I think the only. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Like, Sonic Unleashed is a reaction to Sonic 06 in quite a number of ways, but probably the most pronounced is in the Hogwolf aside art style. The keys in like Dr. Robotnik and the human NPCs, they're a lot more cartoony than they were in Sonic 06.
Right.
Well, nobody liked the way that they did it with some of the more Nobody liked how Eggman looked in Sonic 06.
Yeah, I was about to say, nobody liked Eggman looking like a real person.
Mm-hmm.
So Unleashed goes the other way and actually has a significantly higher number of human NPCs than like most other Sonic games of the era.
They look closer.
They're mostly cartoonish.
They look closer to a Sonic in art style, if that makes sense. They're not as jarring as, true to life people, and then suddenly an anthropomorphic rodent.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we're being honest here, was a problem that plagued the Sonic franchise for more than Sonic 06. The Sonic Adventure games had this problem too.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
where suddenly Sonic and crew stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, because they tried to do realistic looking humans on the Dreamcast, and that went about as well as you'd expect it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was sitting smack dab into the fucking uncanny valley.
Bro, it penetrated the valley, bursted a hole into it.
You're not wrong. Point of order is I think everyone was pleased that they went in this direction, but I think ultimately people felt they veered a bit too far because after Unleashed they did dial it back from the ultra cartoony stuff.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm not saying they ditched it. I'm just saying Eggman, wasn't as cartoony as he was in Unleashed.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the game.
Well, and they also, I don't think they've really brought people back since Unleashed.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, we're still in the period where they're going back and forth on how much characters outside of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, Amy, and Dr. Eggman are allowed to be in the games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also who is populating Sonic World? Because that got switched over in Sonic Forces to be much more animalistic.
Yeah, the avatar creatures, as some people like to call them.
Yes. Which kind of took over for the humans.
Yeah.
At least for that game.
Well, and going forward, it seems, looking at the new racing game.
Mm. Cross Worlds. Well, that might be metaverse stuff, given the title there.
It might be, but at the same time, it's the most recent title we've gotten since Frontiers. And Frontiers,
we've gotten Frontiers Superstars.
Right. Well, in the modern era, not just aping classic.
Right. I'm like,
because modern era or classic era never really had anything other than Robotnik and Sonic's friends.
And sometimes a couple of other antagonists and stuff. But yeah. But those games were from the era where it was simple platformers and you weren't expected to have a lot of story or characters.
Right.
Yeah. Like, humanity writ large wasn't introduced until Sonic Adventure.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least in the video games, there was the Sonic CD era movie OVA thing, but I'm not drunk enough to go into that.
All right. Anyway, I think that'll about wrap this conversation up. Lest we dwell on the horrors.
Yeah. But yeah, Sonic Unleashed is a good game. If you have access to a Xbox 360 and the Sonic Unleashed original game, whether you have downloaded it off the Xbox the network, Xbox Live, or what have you, go pick this up. Well, download the recomp and get the files off your Xbox. It is definitely worth a play.
Indeed. All right, then. So, yeah, that'll about do it for this episode. So, coming up on the week ahead, on Friday, March 14th, we'll be welcoming Chris of Thumb Cramp. He is the creator, the solo dev of Thumb Tanks. Tease your friends and get medals for it. Shoot, deploy mines, and use your tank's special ability to take down your buddies in this local PvP frenzy and gain bragging rights. Collect coins to buy special items. Earn points for skilled play, and upgrade your tank after each round. So, yeah, what if tank combat, but player versus player? This is, by the way, why I was dissuaded for asking for a code of this game, because it's so PvP heavy. Though there is a demo for this. I'm not sure how much you're going to make with that, Petty, but
Fair enough.
it's there. New episode of MSP happening in about, let's say, 30 minutes ish. It is worth noting that the planned guest there is going to be very video game related, as we're going to be welcoming a representative of Overclocked Remix on that program. Don't know what Overclocked Remix, OC Remix, whatever you want to call it, is. How are you listening to this program?
Exactly.
Anyway, coming up on the Sunday reviews, we're having reviews of Little Lighthouse of Horror, Metal Thunder, Expelled, and Poosh XL. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.